Hello and welcome to another Thursday Live. Yes, we are back. It's been a little bit, and I'm so excited to be back because we've been having some difficulties with transmission because of the weather. But I'm grateful because we are still finding that sweet spot where we can be able to stream seamlessly without lots of network interruptions. So I'm hoping that this is going to be the right fit. Yes, I'm sure most of us who are habitual participants of the live sessions are probably wondering, hey, we've never been on at 6 p.m. Yes, we are trying to find a sweet spot. We're trying to find a slot that just fits right because we have noticed that certain periods of the day have lots of network traffic, and that makes transmission of our sessions really tricky. So once again, you're welcome, and I'm sure that if you're here, that must probably be because you have holiday makers, right? Or maybe you are just looking to prepare for the long holidays which are just around the corner. Can you believe it? Another school year is about to come to an end. I am still in awe because it just feels like we started yesterday, right? We are already approaching the last term of the year. Wow. It's amazing how time flies and how the kids just keep growing. If you had a kid in pre-nursery, your child is almost about to enter nursery one. If you had a kid in nursery two, they're about to get into class one. So the milestones just keep heaping on back to back. So tell me, what is your biggest struggle when it comes to this particular short holiday season? We're going to talk about some loopholes that parents often overlook when it comes to this particular holiday. Is not your typical, right? The Easter holiday is a very peculiar holiday, not just because it is very short, but because it is a bridge, right? Easter holidays are a bridge between a period of rest and the most important term of the academic year. So there are some tendencies that many parents have because of the fact that this holiday sits in the middle of, a very important transition. This particular term is a rate determining term, right? Or is a level determining term. Let's put it that way. Because so many kids at the end of this coming term will either move forward or will be able to either access another level, or so many, there is a wide range of possibilities. But whether you realize it or not, this particular holiday has a significant impact on the outcome of this third term that is coming up. All right. Now, there are some kids who have been lagging behind, and there are some things that you can use this short period to do that can actually put your child back in an advantage position. And there are some kids who can actually fall behind just because there are some gaps that are not filled during this particular holiday season. So your holiday is either filled with calm or it's filled with chaos, and that all depends on how you go about it. That's what we're going to be looking at during this session. All right. But before we go further, like I asked earlier, what do you struggle the most with during this particular holiday or during the holidays in general? For many parents, it's the constant yelling. For many parents, it's the chaos, having to remind kids over and over to do certain things. And if you've been following me for a while, we have been talking over and again. Without structure, parenting is stressful. Without structure, parenting is frustrating. And I don't know why. Many parents just keep insisting on just going around and around in the same circle and yet expecting a different outcome. Until you do something different, you cannot expect anything to change. All right. So maybe you've been listening to me for quite a while and you've never really given this whole structure thing a shot. This might be your chance. And trust me, if you start practicing this holiday, by the time you get to the long holidays, you would not be looking for where to ship your child off to, because you would know exactly how to structure meaningful and fulfilling holidays that will contribute to the all-round growth of your child, not just in academics. Okay, so how you go about the Easter holidays directly impacts your child's academic performance. And this can be in both ways. It can be negative. There are some kids who will fall behind because of this particular transition period. And there are some kids who have been lagging behind, who, if they're surrounded by people who know how to guide them, will be able to pick up and move ahead. So it is not a typical holiday. This holiday is nothing like the usual. All right. It is different. It has some, I've mentioned that it is a very sensitive period because the children do need rest. That already gets me to touch on one of the first and most common mistakes that parents make. Because it's a transition between rest period and the most important term, many parents allow their fear, their anxiety to cause them to rob their kids of their rest altogether. There are some kids who are going back to back lessons, this, that, so many things here and there, very little time for recreation, very little time for rest. It's just as though school was ongoing. There is a reason why the school calendar has mapped out this period for rest because children do need a break, not from learning, but from what happens in the classroom. All right. So, learning is something that can happen in so many ways. Learning is not just what happens in the classroom. Children learn through play. There are so many avenues through which children get to learn. The holiday period is a time for you to explore alternative avenues of learning, for you to explore methods for your child to learn and reinforce some of the things that they might have been learning in the classroom. For me, I tell parents this is the time for you to introduce playful learning to help your child better assimilate some things that they might not have been able to grasp really well. So many kids find themselves, particularly because we have many institutions that trigger the fear of failure in children. So we have many kids who are just reading to pass. All right. We have a good number of children who just go to school. The goal is just to pass. No matter what, just pass. That's why we have, the rates of children who are cheating is rising because kids are so afraid that they will do whatever it takes just to make sure that they do not fail. All right. And when that is the case, it takes away from real learning because real learning should not just be about passing exams. It has to be about the desire for knowledge and the fact that the child actually enjoys the process. So this is a time for you to make learning enjoyable for your children. I tell parents you need to invest in resources because there are certain resources that keep your child learning different things about different things, right? Not just what is taught in the classroom, but there are so many other things that children need to learn. Social skills, for example, all right? How to, do certain things at home. So there are so many different avenues that children can continue their learning even though they are on a break from classroom learning. So don't make your home a second classroom when your kids are supposed to be on break. Now we're going to go ahead and you're going to find out. I'm not saying don't let your kids study, all right? Don't get me wrong. So remember, even the scriptures tell us that to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. So of course, this is a time for alternative methods of learning, alternative avenues for learning for your children so that they can take a break from what they have been facing back to back for the past almost 4 months. Okay, so remember that rest is not wasted time. Now, many parents might think that, oh, because you see your child just sitting around, trying to play, maybe play outdoors or play with different things, you're like, oh, this child is lazy, should be preparing for exams. How can you be playing when you have exams coming up? Because many parents think that rest is waste of time. It is not. It is preparation for growth. It is preparation to sprint. It's preparation to excel. Children do need this break. So these 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I don't know how it obtains at your end, but this period is strategic, and how you use it will either help your child go further, make more progress, or can cause them to fall behind. So what happens during the Easter break, it's going to impact what happens at the very end of this academic year as your kids go back to the third term, which is the most important term of the academic year. So I'm going to ask again, what is your biggest challenge during the school holidays, during the Easter break? All right, during the Easter break, what is your biggest challenge? Or what do you think, some of the biggest mistakes that maybe you've made in the past, or maybe you see so many parents making that you believe is something that we need to really check on? All right, I'm going to share what I have here, but I would like to hear from you. Do you think that there is a particular mistake that you've noticed many parents making during the Easter break that will come back, to be very expensive in the end? Now, because this break is a rest period, all right, but it's also a bridge between rest and the most important term. There are 4 common mistakes that parents make. Mistake number 1 would be no structure. So because it is a rest period, right? Many parents will find themselves just letting go completely. The child can sleep and wake up at any time. The kids stay up till very late at night. There is just no structure whatsoever. Oh no, they're on break. It's just a short break. Let them rest. Particularly those from boarding school. Let them rest. Oh, it's very stressful during the school period. Yeah, your intentions are good, but you must understand that if you notice during the first week of the Easter break, right, when kids just come back, when they just begin the break, during that first week, most of the times, if you don't have a structure, right, maybe you intended to leave your kids to sleep until late, you notice that most of them still wake up early because their system has adapted to the structure that the school period imposes on them. I always tell parents that school period is easy for any and every parent, easier because the school structure imposes structure on many homes. So even the home that lacks structure still gets to benefit from the structure that is imposed on them by the school. Why? Because your child has to be at school at a particular time. Your child leaves school at a particular time every day. Your child probably has homework that has to be done every day. So those components of structure that overflow from the school will impact what's happening in the home. That's why parents like that begin to struggle a lot when the school is out of session and the kids are just at home. But in the first week, most kids will just wake up, automatically because their system has adapted. So you need to be able to maintain that rhythm. Because when you allow your children to go without structure during this very short break, you set them up for struggle. The third term is just about a month, it's just about 4 weeks. So imagine that your child spends the entire first week trying to adapt. That is too much time to waste because I think the first 2 weeks will be just revision and then they enter into exams. So imagine that your child spends the entire first week just trying to adapt, trying to regain, readapt to what was before they went on break. So going without structure is a huge and costly mistake. You have your child sleeping in class during the first week. You have your child maybe going late to school during the first week, or lots of chaos in the morning during the first week because your child is still struggling because you let them sleep in till 10, a.m. in the morning and sleep very late at night. And that is going to cost your child probably up to the first week when they go back to school. So no structure during this short break is so costly. But besides even just your child adapting when they go back, another thing that happens is that it causes you a lot of stress, not just for you, but also for the child. When there is no structure, when there is no plan, when time is not given purpose during the holiday season, you find out that many children, they get into a lot of trouble. And many parents think that this happens because the children are just being stubborn, but I promise you they are not. Children do better when they know what is expected of them. If you're here and you're yet to get a structure guide that is made available by the Purpose Parenting Academy, I encourage you to do so because I've not met anyone yet who has gotten that guide and even without taking any of my courses has been unable to set up at least some kind of structure that has helped them parent with more ease. Structure makes parenting easier, but it also makes life better for your children because they get into less trouble. Structure makes it easier for children to know exactly what is expected of them. That doesn't mean your kids will become saints or perfect overnight, all right? It just means that certain behaviors, certain misbehaviors will be curbed just because you have put structure in place, all right? So children lose rhythm and makes resumption to school very, very difficult for the child. And that can impact their performance at the very end. You don't want your child losing the first week. I'm sure you don't want chaos in your home. So if you want to navigate the holidays with calm, use this. I think we still have about 10 days before the holidays comes to an end. You can use this maybe this coming weekend, to set up at least some small structure, right? Try to use this last week to get your kids to stay in rhythm with what happens during the school season. This last week is key, is crucial. Use this last week to get your kids ready for when school starts. So they start running. They don't start by dragging or start by struggling because they do not have a lot of time in the third term to waste up to 1 week just trying to adapt. All right. So this is the last week. Don't waste any of it letting your kids sleep in the name of, oh, they need to rest. Yes, they need to rest, but even rest needs structure. All right. Even rest needs structure. The second common mistake is screen overuse. I think that this this is in the most fitting position. I think it competes with point number one, mistake number one, but this is also very relevant. Now, the screen today is a nanny. There is no doubt about it. All right. And I can't tell you how many parents or how much feedback I get, from maybe parents who are taking maybe parents on the DR trial. I think I had a parent recently telling me of how she's on a forum with other parents with kids that have some special needs. And she was talking about how, she was telling them, oh, in the program with Dr. Jen, screens are curved, you use very little or no screens. And they were like, oh my God, I can't imagine my child without screens because it's going to cost me to do a lot of work. And that's the truth. Is it easy? Of course not. But you must understand that when screens are used excessively, the cost is very high. I'm not talking about money here. It's going to cost your child their focus. Academics needs focus. Now, there are some kids, I think they've been out on holidays now for maybe 10 days, I think, about 10 days or so. So there are many kids who for the past 10 days have been on TV, on tablets, back to back, continuously, spending several hours playing different games, watching different cartoons, and you're like, no, it's just a short break, let them just have it. Yeah, it's just a short break. But what is going to be the cost of that exaggeration, of that excessive use of the screen on the child when it will be time to shut it down and go back to class? Because mind you, in class, they're expected to sit still. And that can be tough when your brain has been overstimulated during the supposed break period. So while the brain is supposed to be having a break, from classroom learning, you have overstimulated your child's brain with excessive screen use. And that puts your child at a disadvantage. So it's rest, but your child should actually be getting the rest. Their brain should be getting the rest it needs. All right? Excessive screen use is one of the things that will put your child at a disadvantage when they eventually resume for the most important term of the school year. So yes, you want to put structure in place, but structure as well will help you manage screen use because it should be scheduled. All right? Just leaving your kids with this access to screens all day long does not work to their advantage. It doesn't work to their advantage. It drains focus, it reduces creativity, and it creates conflict. Mind you, if you would ask me, what would you rather have me do? Have my kids playing outdoors and get dirty? Or have them watch, TV indoors where they're not going to get wounds on their body, they're going to stay clean and calm and quiet and everyone is peace everywhere? I would tell you, let them go outside, get dirty, play, fall, scrape their elbows and their knees, they will not die. Because in doing that, they benefit so much more. It builds a lot of the skills that they will need in the classroom. I know it doesn't look like it's related. Many parents actually think that playing out, a child who is playful, who plays outside a lot, is already a setup for failure. And I promise you it's not. Especially if you have a structure that allows the child to practice other disciplines alongside the play. So your child's playfulness is not the enemy. That's not the problem. The problem is always the lack of structure around how much time is employed into those different things. So let your child play outside. Let your child play with different educative resources. Let your child engage their mind in alternative ways. So maybe you have a child who has problems with spelling, for example. This is the time for you to invest in books, not their classroom books. That's the thing. The parent whose child has a problem with spelling is busy, dictating for the child, having spelling tests and whipping the child for not being able to spell certain words. You're going about it wrong. One of the biggest ways to improve not just vocabulary, but spelling power is by engaging your child with different interesting books. Right? Because once a child is interested in a book, already it opens up their mind. It opens up their mind because it's a form of learning that is not presented as though it is learning. So it comes as something which is fun. And when learning is playful, children assimilate more. That's why I will forever be an advocate, right, for educative resources. There are so many resources. There are so many ways to help your child pick up or learn certain things that are taught in the classroom that does not entail the standard classroom learning methods and that are so beneficial for children. So the third mistake will be overemphasis on academics. Now, there are some parents out there right now who are giving their children no breathing space. Very early in the morning, they are up, they read for 3 hours. They can get breakfast, do chores, and you have another 3 hours scheduled. You allow them to go around, maybe eat lunch, come back, and they have another couple of hours scheduled. And this is not just me telling you a myth. I have seen it. All right. I live in a neighborhood where you can actually hear, maybe sometimes when you're moving around in the fences, you can hear there's some kids who are constantly having lessons. You don't see them playing outside because, hey, exams are coming. Yes, exams are coming. Sometimes just saying that over and over puts your child in a state of constant anxiety. Learning does not happen best when there is so much constant anxiety. All right? Yes, exams are coming. That's a fact. That's a reality. You want your child to be aware of it, but not by using it as a fear tactic to rob all the joy. Immediately you see your child trying to play, exams are coming, and you start reminding them, exams are coming, as you're jumping up and down. If you fail, so you have that, there's that vibe that it's almost as though the child has no right to laugh, to play, to relax. And that is detrimental because this is meant to be a break. This is meant to be a period of well-deserved rest. I'm not saying pack all the books and put them under the bed, no, but I'm saying even while you structure study time or while you schedule some study time, you have to make room for your child to have meaningful holiday experiences. Meaningful holiday experiences. Don't rob them of their rest, all right? Because it will lead to burnout. There is a reason why on the school calendar, all the bodies that govern education in Cameroon sat down and discovered that, okay, and even abroad, they actually have breaks that are somewhat a little longer than what we have during the Easter break. Because it's relevant. When you look at the systems in the world that have the best education systems, you realize that it's not about back to back to back to back learning. They actually make room for sufficient break time because they recognize, studies have shown that children actually do better when they have these breaks. So this break is not just to get your child to fall behind. That's not what the school is intending. The school is intending to give your child's mind, their brain, a break. So don't sabotage that. All right. And the fourth mistake is too much relaxation. So too much academics, too much relaxation. So either one is not going to be an advantage to your child. So this goes back to almost the same thing as structure, right? When you just let down all your guard, you allow your child to let down all their guard. From morning to night, they go from one game to the next, go from one play to the next, they sleep anyhow, eat anyhow. After all, it's just 2 weeks, let them just relax and have fun. They go out, they're having lots and lots of fun. But again, if that is all that is the content of the 2 weeks that they have to be at home, they are going to fall behind. Make no mistake about that. All right. Not even just because, they are not giving any time to their books, but also because that constant relaxation also does not prepare them to go back suddenly into a very structured environment. So like I said earlier when I talked about structure, when they return to the structured school environment, they might take up a lot of the little time they have left just trying to adapt again. And they would have lost a week. So the child who is coming from a structured home, who is coming from a system that prepared them to go back to school, right, will hit the ground running. While the child who's coming from too much relaxation will hit the ground crawling before they are able to stand up, before they are able to pick up, they would have lost some time. So imagine a child who is spending 6 hours daily on screens. That child will struggle to sit through a 2-hour exam paper. It doesn't matter what the age of the child is. So you don't want your child you don't want to overindulge your children in any aspect. All right. Don't overindulge academics, but also don't overindulge entertainment and relaxation. You want to find the balance. And that happens when you have a structure. Structure is about scheduling what will fill my child's time from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed. But there are also other components involved. If you really want to know more, if you haven't heard about structure before, get the structure guide. We have a structure guide that is available for a very little amount that you can is very, very instructive, very, very easy to follow. It has all the templates you need. You can actually use that guide and set up structure in your home. And trust me, doing this now helps you to, have a more fulfilling long holiday. The long holiday is just around the corner. Okay, so children need that downtime to relax, to recharge. But for me, I think one of the most strategic uses of this holiday period is for alternative avenues of learning, is to explore alternative avenues of learning. Let me hear from you, right? What are the alternative avenues that you explore? If you're here from the DRT or any of the other forums that I run, then I'm sure you must have lots of things to say. I have parents who shared pictures on the forum, of their kids painting, some are doing coloring, some are going sightseeing, some are reading books. There's a lot that you can do. But even, amongst all the things that you want to happen, right? You want your child to keep up with academics, you want your child to stay, adapted so that they don't fall out of line. But you also want to use this time to connect with your children. I often say that the school season is the season that it puts a lot of strain on the parent-child bond because the parent and the child spend a lot of time apart. And even the little time they have to spend together is usually transactional for many homes. It's usually about instructing the child, go here, come here, shouting at the child, why didn't you do this, and all of that. So it's not really, most parents don't really use that time intentionally to invest in their relationship with their child. So the holiday period is not just time for you to, spend time having your child just get out of your hair so you can have peace, but it's about you ensuring that you have meaningful conversations with your children. A lot happens during the school year, especially if you have a child in boarding school. I think I'm going to put up a post about, some questions that you can ask a child in boarding school that will get them to open up. Because most of the times, if you just ask your child, how was school? What really happened in school? Mama, nothing. It's just the normal now. We go to class, we work. Yeah, once in a while, one or two stories might pop up. But because it is a long period of time, right? And sometimes it's hard for the child to pick the relevant things. They might not really know what to share with you that matters. So you need to be able to guide these conversations. But these conversations, they are so crucial because it might show you maybe areas of struggle that you can be able to put certain measures in place to help your child. They might show you certain areas, that your child needs maybe some kind of counsel from you. Something might have happened, the child might have just suppressed it. And it's very important that you're using this period strategically. What are the areas your child is struggling in? Now, let's go back to what to do that will help your child be able to pick up academically, right? Or even go further academically. Now, these 2 weeks, of course, you don't want to use all of it just for academics, right? You want to do other things. But at the same time, you need to be able to put attention on your child's academics, besides just the holiday homework that was given. Now, if there are areas where your child is excelling, of course, you want to ensure that they focus on those areas as well. Because many times, our tendency is to focus only on the weakness. My child is really good in history, really good in English, or really good in literature. So you don't pay attention to those. You're only focusing on the maths that the child is failing. And sometimes I've actually experienced this firsthand. All right. One of my kids really, really used to struggle with mathematics. And at some point, I became so engrossed with trying to get that score to improve, trying to get that child to improve, that we overlooked, the areas where he was actually excelling. So you want to ensure that the areas of strength remain an area of strength. Okay. So you don't want to offset the balance completely. So use this time to understand how your child learns. How does your child learn? All right. How do they study? Because if you have a child who is, in an advanced class, let's say, the bigger primary school sections or maybe the secondary school section, if your child is struggling, how do they study? Many parents don't know what their child's learning style is. And that can make it difficult for you to actually be able to devise strategies that will help your child learn effectively. Because not all subjects are the same. There are certain subjects that require, more visual and imaginative capacity. Certain subjects require retentive capacity, like history. I hated history because you don't reason history. It doesn't need you to reason it. You just need to memorize. And I didn't like it because I'm the kind of person that I'm very visual. And history was a very two-dimensional subject. It was just notes and boring notes for me. So I didn't like it at all. I did very well in anything that had to do with me using my mind, reasoning, solving problems. But when it came to history, my hands were tied. All right. But I believe that if I had gotten a strategy that aligned with how I learn, I could have done better in history. So if you have a child who is struggling with their language capacity, so work on language capacity, work on spelling, work on writing capacity. Those are things that don't seem related, but they do contribute to the overall output. There is a child, my first child, I've not, when I check his paper sometimes, I notice that there are certain answers that he gets right, but because his writing was so bad, the teacher marked it wrong. So you can't take away the relevance of handwriting, vocabulary, spelling capacity to understand the question. That's another thing. So reading comprehension. So have your child read different material. Have your child explore other ways of learning. Have your child work on their writing, work on their reading, because all of these things, will actually contribute to an overall improved performance. So it's not just go and read your books, go and read your books. They've been reading the same books. All right. So this is just 2 weeks. For me, it's time for quality and not just quantity. It's time for quality and not just quantity. Now, if your child came home with a red report card, you need to sit down with that child, regardless of what the report card was said anyway. Whether your child came with the blue report card, with this medium report card, or with the red report card, you must find time to sit down with that child and that report card. All right? Have a conversation that is non-judgmental, is non-shaming, but that borders on what the child's struggles are, what it is that they think they can accomplish, and you to also speak to the child that you are raising. All right? Because the tendency will be to focus on where it's not working. Meanwhile, there is a lot that is already working. And when you focus only on that, you tend to cause your child to only see their inability. That's why I said, don't focus only on where your child is failing and fail to reinforce where your child is already excelling. Because that part tells them more about their capability, which is important, and also help them do better in the part where they're struggling. So, what to do as we round up? Create a flexible routine. All right, you need to maintain your kids on a routine. There should be a wake up time. There should be activities that follow, sequentially. Wake up, maybe prayers, clean up, or chores. I don't know, whatever obtains in your home. So make it a routine. It should be something that is done in repetition every day. This is the way it goes. That way it takes away from you constantly needing to tell your children what to do all the time, because that is one of the reasons why parents are drained and frustrated and always yelling and always irritated and always angry. You want your child to have a pleasant experience, then you, who's a big part of their environment, has to also work on your mood. All right, you have to work on your mood. You want to be present but also pleasant. All right, you want to be present, also pleasant. Don't get your child praying, let's go start fast. Yeah, I cannot even just I don't know if you ever made that prayer as a child, but there were times, certain places you go to that you're just praying that you end, because the environment is not just conducive. So home should be a place where your kids come in and they don't want to go out. All right, not just because it's relaxing and all of that, but also because they have enjoyed quality moments with their parents. Very important. So create a flexible routine that incorporates or that balances out study, learning with play and other things around the house. All right, you want to put in a variety of different things, maybe an outing, reading time, study time. Mind you, I'm putting reading and study separately. So reading time, study time, other kind of recreational activities, outdoor play time. I'm the outdoor play advocate as well. Outdoor playtime with other children is so important. Put that into that schedule. Chores are so important. Don't say, oh, no, they have been in school, they have been suffering, let them just rest. No, chores is not punishment. It is training. It's not about punishment. My kids there is no time when they're exempted from chores. Whether you have exams, whether you're on holidays, whether it's school time, it doesn't matter. Chores are a part of life. They're a part of life, and it's a big school for children. Just engaging them in chores, so important. So afternoon play, schedule some family time, When you spend time with your kids, spend time with them as a group, spend time with them as individuals. Individual time with each child. So important. The second thing you want to do is to limit screens with purpose. Be very intentional about how much screen time. This is not the time to not be able to keep track of how long your kids have been on the screen. You ask me how much time my kids spent on the screen yesterday, and since holiday started, I will tell you. Because we have a schedule. There is a time when the TV comes on. Before that time, it doesn't. Right? It doesn't. It shouldn't. So it doesn't come on. So that's why I can easily tell you they had 2 hours of screen time. It's because it is scheduled. Right? Now, without that schedule, if the TV could just come on at any time and I'm at work for some part of the day, I won't be able to know exactly how much time my kids have spent on screen. Because if you allow a child to choose between TV and outdoor play, I can say 99% of children will choose TV, which is not necessarily a great choice for them because they could sit there all day and not do anything else. That's why they need adults who understand why certain things should be done in certain ways and will be able to help them manage their time better, including the teenagers. There's so many teens who are on social media during this holiday period and they are posting and they are scrolling constantly. You're like, oh no, just catching up with his friends. Oh, yes. And there are kids who are stumbling upon things they shouldn't see for their first time during this break. Yes, every time a child is on the internet without appropriate protection or supervision, the chances of them stumbling upon content that can corrupt them is very, very high. Make no mistake. Don't say, oh no, my child is a good child. It's not about the goodness, it's about the skillfulness. All right? It's about how prepared the child is to be in that space. But even then, it is because the child has the brain of a child. That is the reason why they need all those guardrails. Not because they are not good. It's not the goodness that is, supposed to be the measuring factor for whether or not you can leave them on the internet like that. I've had really good children brought to me for counseling because they were already, gone too far into porn. Good children. They're not bad kids. They're just kids who have the brain that is equal to their age. And that age, the fact that they're still a child, means that the brain has limitations. All right? And it is because of those things that you need to be able, even though the child is a good child, even though the child has never given you any reason to doubt them, the fact that they are a child is the reason why they need you to still have your eyes on what they're doing for guidance so that they can know how to navigate. All right? So limit screens with purpose. Even while they are having screen time, you want to also be very purposeful about the kind of content that they are consuming. All right? Because there is screen time and then there is quality screen time. So it's not just any and everything. Let them watch things that build them, whether it's building them morally or it's building them intellectually. There are so many things that kids can watch that can actually add value to them. And there are some that they watch and it's just like eating empty bread. It brings you nothing, but more hunger quicker than you plan. All right. So the third thing you want to do this holiday is to integrate academics naturally. Do you know cooking with your child actually helps prepare them for academics? Yeah, it doesn't look related, but it is related. Playing outdoors helps your child prepare for academics. Playing with like board games, for example, helps your child with academics. So these things don't look related, but they do develop the skills that are required in the classroom. Problem solving skills, for example. Your child just building a puzzle might look like, what, how can you be playing with that thing all day? Go and read your books. We don't realize that mathematics is a problem solving subject and puzzles are problem solving subject. The part of the brain that is supposed to crack both is the same. So by building the puzzle, you are developing that part of the brain that will help the child crack the mathematics problem. So yes, it is related. All right. In the kitchen, you measure portions, you follow recipes. Your child needs to practice interpreting a recipe and executing instructions. What are exam questions about? About understanding the instruction, interpreting it properly before executing. Just that skill alone can make the difference between a child who fails, even though they know the subject, but just because they missed or misinterpreted the question. Those who are in science, I don't know about art, but those who are in science, you know how crucial that is. They tell you list 5 characteristics, and then you go and expatiate 6 characteristics. You failed, except your marker is merciful. But normally you should fail, all right? Because you have completely missed the question. Not to mention the questions where question A is related to question Z. They say, with the answer you got from A above, do this. So your child needs to, so there are so many dimensions, there's so many skills that are used in academics that many parents don't realize can be reinforced in other areas. Chores is a problem-solving thing. It helps build resilience. There are so many other things that can help reinforce your child's classroom learning. So it's not just sitting down with a book. Most of the kids will be sleeping there, and you're like, oh, read your books, read your books. Yeah, they should read. They should have study time, but make room for a variety of things. Get puzzles, get board games, get other logic games, get books, not classroom books, story books, knowledge books that your children can exercise their minds with. I think I shared the story about how my kids, I think the first and the second, they were able to really understand the First World War and Second World War because of an encyclopedia that we have. The encyclopedia we have has pictures, and it really, really broke it down with pictures that help them really understand and remember the facts better. I saw the scores really improve just based on that. So there are other kinds of material that you can use to help reinforce what is being taught at home. Don't just focus on the classroom books. Okay, so integrate different things that help make learning natural. Cooking, shopping, budgeting, storytelling, book reading, games, outdoor play. All of these things contribute to help your child be able to reinforce what they're learning in the classroom. Now, number 4 is for you to protect their rest. Schedule time for rest. All right, encourage naps, encourage things that give their mind a break. Encourage your child to practice a hobby. Practice things that help them relax mentally. Things like painting, coloring, cooking, doing something the child enjoys. So it should not just be what you want, but you also want to make room for what your child is interested in doing. Okay, you want to invest in things that your child could be interested in doing. So encourage other things, family bonding, spending time with them, quality time with them, asking questions, getting to know your child. The thing many parents miss is that the child that went to school in September is not the same child you have now. The child that went to school in September is not the same child you have now. Your child has evolved. But many parents lag behind their children's growth and development. So their expectations stay at the level they remember when the child began the school year. Every time your child meets with their mates, exposed to other environments, they learn different things, good, bad. So you want to be able to be a part of that journey. You don't want to be a stranger to that journey. You want to be keen to how your child is evolving and changing over time. So when you pick and notice things that you don't want, you begin to work on them. All right? But many parents only come into the know of some of these things when it has really gone too far, and then you begin to struggle because you were a stranger to your child's journey. So, number 5, speak to character, not just to performance. I came across a post, I think today or yesterday, of a very popular Nigerian actress. It was a shocking detail. She was sharing how she was always last in class, but her father never compared her with her siblings who were always top of their class. That can be challenging, right? As a parent, one of the things you have to work at is understanding that even the child that is not so brilliant in academics is not a failure. Because life is not all about what happens in the classroom. There are some kids whose skill cannot be addressed in that box. Should I call it a box? In those 4 walls, let's call it that. Right? So I was like, wow, this is a very touching story. She was always at the bottom of the class. She said even to get the degree she has now, she had to sweat to get it. Just for getting that was just for her parent. And then she finally was able to go and pursue what she knows was a passion, a gift. And she's excelling there. Maybe she's richer than, doing better than her siblings who are topping their class. So academics is not all in all. So yes, you might have a child who struggles. Don't allow that to be the only thing that defines that child. So I keep telling parents, you have a child who's struggling academically. This is the time for you to allow them to explore other interests, not just classroom, extra classes. Teachers are coming from morning to night. The child is only on their books. Oh, I don't want you to fail. You're going to fail again. You have to be first in your class. Those are important, but don't allow that to be the only thing that defines your child. Because for a child that struggles, it is very easy for them to only define themselves by those failures and overlook the fact that that is not all that life is about. They have other gifts, they have other talents that needs to be explored. That could probably be the key to them thriving tomorrow. Okay, so what is one routine activity that you would like to introduce this holiday to keep calm and balance? How are you balancing learning and play? I'd like to hear from you in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I think we've come to the end of this session. But again, like I mentioned, one mistake that you must avoid during this holiday season is completely getting your child to fall out of the rhythm that had already set in naturally by going through 4 months of school during the second term, and then you use these 2 weeks to completely offset that. That will cause them to begin to struggle again when school begins. These 2 weeks is not meant for gas matinee where the child just sleeps. I remember when I was young, we used to sleep to 1 p.m. It was like a competition. I grew up in a space that was not really structured. I grew up just with our dad, and when he goes to work in the morning, we're just there. Sometimes with cousins or with nannies, and you had your would sleep from boarding school. Would just come from boarding school. It was actually competition to sleep till you shake. And the truth is, when you go back to school, you struggle. All right, you struggle. So no, that is not you loving your child. That is not you loving your child, because that particular relaxation will cost their child time when they return to school. So I hope that you've picked up something that can help you be able to ensure that this holiday counts towards your child's academic performance as they round off the academic year. This is the most important term. All right. This is the term where everything you've been working on has to pay off. But that is not going to happen by you using these 2 weeks to keep your child, to rob them of their joy of holiday. So let the joy of holiday be there, but also make time intentionally for alternative avenues of learning, but also for them to reinforce their academics. All right. So let me hear from you in the comments. If you have a question, feel free to ask. If you have what has stood out for you in this session today, let me hear from you in the comments. And please don't forget to subscribe. Your support is what helps us to keep going. Your support is what helps us to be able to reach many more parents. All right. So sharing, subscribing, those are ways that you can support the work that we're doing. Also remember that you can get the structure guide. The structure guide is available, and it can really, really help you be able to set up structure in your home that takes away chaos and brings calm, can make the holidays more enjoyable both for you and for your children. And of course, don't forget to enroll into the next cohort of the Deeply Rooted 365. That is our exclusive 1-year program. And this year, we've actually created a platform that can help those who are waiting, right? Because it's a long wait. From now to the next cohort enrolls and begins in December. It's a long wait, but we are going to make it worth your while. We're creating a platform where you can have access to lots, in fact, all the resources that the Purposeful Parenting Academy is going to be putting out, whether they are guides, whether it's my book, Connected on Purpose, or courses that are coming up, anything that is coming up from the Academy from now to the program starts, you get to have access to those things for a huge discount. All right, that helps you to start learning while you wait. And that you can access just by booking your slot. So if you want to know more about the DR365, reach out to us on WhatsApp or just comment DR265 and we are going to send you the details. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you've been able to pick up something that can help make these holidays more meaningful for you, for your children. Don't forget to schedule that one-on-one time with each child to have a tete-a-tete with each child before they go back to school. It doesn't matter how young they are, all right? You want to get them in there. You want to, catch up with the child that you have now. Because I said the child you sent to school in September is not the child you have now. That child has evolved. Their mind has opened up more. They have heard things. They have seen things. You want to be a part of that. So please make sure that you schedule. You have 1 week to go. Schedule time. Sit down with each child. Bring out the report card. Reaffirm your children. Don't let them be defined by the red marks. Your child is more than those red marks. All right? You have a whole child that is full of potential that cannot be defined only by what happens in the classroom. This is to the parent whose child is struggling. I think I'll need to have a video out there for parents whose kids are struggling in school, or parents with special needs kids. You want to be able to look beyond their limitations and see the potential that your child carries, because that one thing cannot be able to define or cancel out all of what God put inside your child. So thank you so much for being here. Hi, Mama Vera. So glad you're here. Thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you. Don't forget to subscribe. All right. Remember, it helps us grow. Share this. Invite some other parent to watch. There's so many parents out there on holidays who are making some of the mistakes we've trashed here today that will be blessed just by listening to this. And please, let me hear your feedback. All right. Did this bless you? I would love to hear from you. Take care. And I'll see you next Thursday. Bye.